All right, I think we're live. Can never tell with these things. Um, Gosh, I guess I should have combed my hair before I got on here. All right, if you're here, say something in the chat so I know you're here. We'll do some shout outs here in a second. All right, is anybody here with me? Turn some lights on here. Goodness gracious, it's dark. Whoa. Hey, is anybody here? I think there's 5 of you here, but I'm not sure yet. Hey, Terry Linhart, how you doing? And we got Val McAllister. All right, guys, jump in the chat here. Hello, Aaron and Lindsay Powell. All right. Welcome to my home, all 7 of you who are here. I'm going to give a second for everybody to jump in. Hang on. I had a hat on earlier today, and that hair was going to bother me all night if I had, because I have to stand here and talk to my own face on this thing. So, hi, Nick. Hi, Nancy. All right, good. Well, we're going to give a few minutes here for everybody to populate. I have an agenda for tonight. We're going to be, let's see, I'm going to do the sermon preview as I promised. We're going to talk a little bit about Sunday, which I have right here. We're going to do a live Q&A about some stuff happening on Main Street, so I can fill you in on a few things. We are going to play Stump the Pastor and Bible Trivia. I got a few rules around that, and then a couple of announcements, and then anything else you guys want to talk about. So thank you, Terry. I'm glad I'm looking good. You might want to adjust your screen a little bit if I'm looking good to you. So, all right. I'm good. Yeah. Wasn't sure how many I have or if we'd have anybody here tonight. Just was hoping a few people would jump on. But hello, Lorelei McAllister. How are you doing? There's somebody here who just walked in the door who's going to want to say hi to you. Let me get her over here. So here she is, just fresh from Honda. So everybody say hi, Suze.
It was great.
So I was hoping I could get this to work. I set this up earlier on my computer down in the office, and now I'm at home, and was having a little trouble finding where the link went. So, but it seems to be working now. Okay. So, all right. Everybody hear my cat? Can anybody hear my cat having a fit since Susan walked in? She's in here. She's having a royal fit. All right, we're gonna roll the start here in a couple minutes. We'll see who we got. And hey, if you want to go ahead and make some supper, go ahead.
Everybody has to hear me banging around.
Yeah. All right. So you'll get on with us. Okay. you can hear it live. You don't have to be online. All right. All right, guys. Hi, Ellie and Grant. Hope you guys had a good day not being at school today, which I'm sure that you did. And Grant, you're gonna. I know you got a puzzle for Christmas for Spider-Man. You have to come by and see my Superman puzzle. I just finished it a couple days ago. You have to come by and check that out. Don, I will share that request. Hey, Suze.
Yeah.
Don says you can't make supper unless you make enough for all of us. She just hit the couch, Don. It's not looking good for you, buddy. Sorry. What does the message on the wall behind me say? See if I can tilt the camera the right way. Can you read it there? That's what I read every morning when I get up. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get started here. If you guys want to grab your Bibles, we're going to go right straight to the Bible tonight for the first portion. So I'll give you a second to grab those. We're going to 1 Samuel 22 is where we're heading tonight, and to be a part of the conversation. And I did promise in my text. See what I promised? While you guys are grabbing your Bibles, I promised Hot Wheels. I got 3. I got 6. I got 9 Hot Wheels here for prizes tonight, including 2 Justice League version Batmobiles right there. So if you can come up with a question that will meet my meticulous rules, you may be the winner of one of these here tonight. So I didn't want you to think I was kidding about that. So all right, 1 Samuel 22 is where we're heading. Now, understand when I put the sermon series together, we originally were going to have a sermon last Sunday, which y'all know we did not have because the missionaries were here, which was great. We were glad to have Hal and his wife here to share with you guys. Susan and I actually joined you online and made me understand how much we need to upgrade our camera equipment for our live stream broadcasting. So it wasn't bad because it was only a couple $100 I paid for that iPad originally, but certainly could use some upgrading, and we're going to work on that. So, but what that means is we missed a portion of the series. So a couple chapters prior to this, and what we would have had on Sunday is a portion of scripture where it talks about Saul and the problems he was facing. And Saul certainly had a lot going on. If you know any thing about the history of David and Saul, Saul was the king first, and everything went well for like 5 minutes. And then things started to bottom out, running into all kinds of problems. Saul certainly suffered from some kind of bipolar disorder, as we would call it today. But the Bible describes it as a tormenting spirit, which absolutely did torment him. And he just struggled for his most of his life after that point. So once things got so bad that he couldn't control it anymore, God said, well, we're going to have to replace him as king, which is what happens when things go far enough off the rails. So the new king obviously was David, as you all well know, and he was anointed and then fought Goliath. And then we had a story of explanation talking about King Saul and the problems that he had. So as Saul's condition continued to deteriorate, the threat against David got more and more intense. And David finally found himself in a place where I got to go. And so he made a deal with Jonathan, who, how do I want to say this? Didn't really help him escape, but was certainly he helped him escape, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. He and Jonathan made a pact together that Jonathan would be faithful to David and help him out. So David escapes. He goes away. He has some adventures in another land where he has to act insane to break out. If you want to read about David acting insane, go back and read 1 Samuel 21, which is before what we read tonight. He gets held up by a foreign king, and in order to get away, he acts like a crazy person, literally like a crazy person. And the king is like, mighty warrior David, an insane person? I don't think so. Get him out of here. We have enough crazy people here as it is. So they let David go. So that brings us to where we are here tonight. And so David runs off to a particular place known as the cave of Adullam, as you see here in 1 Samuel 22, and that's where the story picks up tonight. Now, one of the things that's amazing about this is Saul is having problems. My furnace just kicked on. I don't know if you can hear that. One of the things that is amazing about this is David is trying to hide. As we read through this tonight, you got to keep in mind, David is hiding. He doesn't want to be found. Any of you who have ever had to hide for any reason, the last thing you want to do is be found. It kind of defeats the purpose of hiding. So he's trying to get away. He's trying to go hide, trying to get lost, and honestly fails in amazing fashion at trying to hide. So you see there, if you got your Bible, you can open up there, 1 Samuel 22. It says, David left Gath, which is where you act like the crazy person to get away. David left Gath, escaped to the cave of Adullam. So that's a place he ran off to, this cave. I guess if you're going to hide, a cave is a good place to do it. It gave him shelter, but was not conspicuous, not like building a shelter would be. I mean, obviously, if he would have built a house or a place to stay or had a camp, that would have been obvious, but a cave would have been there for 1,000 years prior to his arrival. So hiding in a cave would not have been conspicuous to somebody who was riding by. So he gets to the cave of Adullam. He's like, great, I made it. I've escaped. I'm out. All this great stuff. And we're still in verse 1. Second half of verse 1 says, soon his brothers and all his other relatives joined him there. Now, nowhere does it say here that David sent word to tell him where he was. He doesn't, tell him, guys, if I ever can't find me, look at this place called the Cave of Adullam. Nothing. He's just there, and his relatives and his brothers and his family all show up. And I find that fascinating because, remember, he's going to hide. So why would he want some people there? Now, you could say, well, there's safety in numbers. All right, I could give you that, except to say, this is the king we're talking about that's after him. Whatever resources, whatever people David could get together, whatever defenses they could build, what would he possibly be able to have that the king would not be able to overcome? Anything he would do. I mean, he could have, we know he had 7 brothers, so he has a big family. He probably has lots of friends. But even that, and all their wives and his sons and nephews and everybody else, I don't care how big of a family you talk about, the king's resources are always going to beat that. The king is always going to have more people at his disposal. So it's not like he's saying, hey, guys, come out here because we're going to have a fight with the king. It's not what he says at all. He says, I'm trying not to get found, and hiding one person is tough enough. Trying to hide a couple of dozen people is harder. So again, this point I'm making is going to come back later. But the idea is he went to hide and failed miserably at hiding because all these people start showing up. And then not only does his family show up, let's go on to verse 2. Then others began coming. I mean, David was good at lots of things, to hiding not being one of them. Then others began to come, men who were in trouble or in debt, who were just discontented, until David was the captain of about 400 men. So what you can see here is that, okay, so David's out there supposedly hiding, and now 400 people are out there with him. Now, look, I don't know how big the Cave of Adullam is. I have no idea. But I sincerely doubt that this cave is going to hold 400 people. I don't know that for a fact, but I've been in, I've been down to the Ohio caverns. I've been in caves, different places and different things. I've never been in a cave where I said, I think we could hide 400 people in here. I don't know that a cave like that exists. So the point I'm making here is David was trying to get away and didn't. People kept finding him. All right, keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. Verse 3. Later, David went to Mizpah in Moab, where he asked the king, please allow my father and mother to live here with you until the time, sorry, I lost my place, until I know what God is going to do for me. So he goes to this foreign king, whoever Mizpah was in Moab. Again, I don't know who that is, but David basically went to an outsider. He says, hey, would you look after my mom and dad? David knows there's some rough stuff coming. And I mean, that's pretty obvious at this point. But he asked this foreigner to keep an eye on his parents and keep him here, keep him safe, keep him away from what's going on. Make sure Saul doesn't know they're here, both for their sake and for yours. Different things. And interesting thing about that is, so this king of Moab takes David's parents in, and we never hear about them again. So apparently he did a good job and was able to keep them safe, which is great. And hi, Amy Hogshead. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. Okay, so took care of his parents. Now he's got these 400 ragamuffins, I guess, who are out there with him. And verse 5. One day the prophet Gad told David. So obviously there's a prophet out there with him. A man of God had come out there and now has a word from God for David. Prophet Gad told David, leave the stronghold and return to the land of Judah. I mean, let's face it, the hiding thing ain't working. Because everybody and their brother, literally everybody and their brother, now knows where he's at. So I mean, there's no point in hiding anymore. So the man of God comes along, Gad, and says, "You might as well go back because clearly being here in this super duper secret cave is not working out." So David went to the forest of Hereth. Verse 6, the news of his arrival in Judah soon reached Saul, which I'm sure it did get to Saul very quickly. At that time, the king was sitting beneath the Teramask tree at the hill of Gibeah, holding his spear, surrounded by his officers. Okay, so all this happened. David went to Adullam, was hiding. His family found him. His friends found him. Then a bunch of people who didn't even really know him found him. All these people who were discontent, outcast from society, found him. So he's grown a pretty good sized group out there, and to the point that hiding seems like stupid because it's clearly not working. So he returns, and now as he returns, the Bible is going to kind of shift camps. So we're going to kind of leave David for a little bit. We're going to go over and see what Saul's up to, and see what he's up to. So keep in mind where David has been. People have been joining him. People have been coming out, even though he's supposedly hiding. People have been coming out to join him for quite some time. I don't know what the time frame is here, but for the whole time he was out there, the group of men he was leading was continually growing. Okay, so verse 7. Now we're over with Saul. So what's Saul up to? Well, let's find out. Verse 7. Listen here, you men of Benjamin, Saul shouted to his officers when he heard the news. Has that son of Jesse promised every one of you fields and vineyards? Has he promised to make you all generals and captains of his army? Is that why you have conspired against me? For not one of you told me when my own son made a pact with the son of Jesse. You're not even sorry for me. Think of it, my own son encouraging him to kill me as he is trying to do this very day. Here's my question about all this, okay? You heard me read that whole section there. Did any of that happen? Think about everything, all the accusations he made, starting in verse 7. Listen here, guys. Saul shouted when he heard the news. Okay, first thing. Has the son of Jesse promised every one of you fields and vineyards? Has that happened? Has David promised to give anybody a vineyard? Has David promised to give anybody a field? Not to my knowledge. I mean, not to what's recorded here. We don't have any record of him promising that to anybody. Next, has he promised to make you generals and captains of his army? Again, we have no record of that. We have no indication he did that. Again, he was trying to hide, and people were coming to him, and no explanation is given why those people are going out there. I mean, did David promise all 400 of these guys, hey, I'll give you a field and make you a general? Well, how many generals does he need? He's got 400 men. He doesn't need 400 generals. So as this group is growing up around David, we don't have any record he promised anybody anything. But people were still going out to join him. Where Saul is now, I mean, Saul, who's got to be scratching his head at this point, he's like, look, there's got to be something. The guy's got to be doing something. You know, he's got to be promising you guys something. There's got to be some reason for you to, turn your back on me and go out there. We'll talk about what that might be in a second. But Saul's got to be a little suspicious as to why this is happening. Okay. Is that why you have conspired against me? For not one of you told me when my own son made a solemn pact with the son of Jesse. Now, that's a section we didn't read in this series. But if you go back to chapter 21, the chapter immediately prior to this one, you'll read about the conversation between David and Jonathan. And Jonathan never makes a pact with anybody to kill Saul. And if you know anything about the story of David throughout the whole course of what happens here, has multiple opportunities where he could kill Saul, and he doesn't, because he continues to say, I'm not killing the Lord's anointed. That's not how this is going to work. Saul may be out to kill me, and I wished he wasn't. Let's be clear about that. But whether he is or isn't, I will not kill the Lord's anointed. Because, even though Saul may have been rejected as king, he was still the king, and will be king until such time that God moves and makes something else happen. David is very clear about that. All throughout the time until he's anointed king. But the conversation between Jonathan and David, which, again, we did not read for purposes of this series, but you can go read it yourself if you want, in chapter 21, was all about how all about how Jonathan I can't really say he helped, but he sort of clarified, I think is the best word, clarified what Saul's position was toward David. Because Jonathan kept saying, I don't know, because David kept saying, hey, Jonathan, I think your dad's trying to kill me. And Jonathan was like, I don't think so. I mean, he hasn't said that. Nobody suggested that, at least at this point. Now, later on, it becomes very obvious that's what happened. But David's like, no, I'm sure. And then David and Jonathan put together a little test. Jonathan goes back and says, hey, I told David to go home and sacrifice in his family's place. And David said, if he says, okay, that's cool, then it's fine. But if he flies into a rage, that means he's trying to kill me. Well, obviously, Jonathan goes back and says, hey, I told David he could go back to his family's thing. It was important to him. And Saul just comes apart at the seams. And so then Jonathan knows Dad's really out to get him. But in all that, at no point did Jonathan ever make any conspiracy. David didn't attempt to make one. Jonathan never offered one to knock off Saul. Now, Jonathan does say at a couple of points that Jonathan believes that it's going to be David's calling to become king. So Jonathan embraces that. But he never says, we're going to have to kill Dad to pull this off. No place does that ever happen. So there's no conspiracy. There's no nothing. All there is this kind of very aggressive jealousy, we'll call it, on behalf of Saul, where Saul is very, very upset, very angry, very just off the rails. And Jonathan is, when the first time he sees it, is shocked that this is going on. Because Jonathan had no idea that actually Saul's the one that wants to kill David. He had no idea. And but here he is. Saul's sitting with his men, the guys who were supposed to be faithful to him, the guys, kind of his guard, the people around him. And they're just sitting there. I mean, nobody's done anything or all this stuff. And all Saul's doing is going around the circle saying, well, I know you conspired against me, and I know you hate my guts, and I know you want to get rid of me. Even my own son wants me dead, and all this stuff. And all the men are sitting there going, look, nobody said that. Nobody's doing that. But Saul is just having a fit. He's making accusations against everybody who's there, including his own son, and trying to get this out there. And the whole time, everybody's going, we don't know anything about this. This seems to exist only in your mind. And if you read the entire story, all of the, of 1 Samuel, the book of 1 Samuel, David doesn't, there's no record that David participated in any of this. And, but Saul does find one person, though, that is on his side. And this guy named Doeg the Edomite. And Doeg the Edomite is a bad person. So let's read about him. Verse 9. Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing there with Saul's men, spoke up. Okay. So Doeg the Edomite, we actually read his story earlier in Samuel. I think that's also in chapter 21. After David has to run away from Saul, after he and Jonathan speak, David has to escape. David goes to a place, like it's not really a temple because they didn't have that in that days, but a place where all the priests lived. So he goes up and speaks to the chief priest who's there, and the priest, who has no idea any of this is happening. He doesn't know that Saul hates David. He doesn't know David's running from Saul. He doesn't know any of this. Totally innocent. And David, who he does recognize, comes in and says, "Hey," and David says, "Hey, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission from God," like the Blues Brothers. But he doesn't really explain what's going on. And David says, "I'm starving. I need something to eat." And the priest says, "All I got is the holy bread." David says, "Look, I'm gonna have to eat that because I'm starving." So the priest gives him some of the holy bread. And then David says, "Look, I'm going to need a weapon." And the priest is like, "Well, we're priests. We don't really do that." And he goes, "Hold on a second. We do have one weapon here. We happen to have Goliath's sword." And David says, "Oh, man, it's the greatest sword around. Why don't you give that to me?" And the priest, again, who has no idea any of this is going on, says, "Well, sure. I mean, it's yours anyways." So the priest hands over the sword. Well, David then leaves with Goliath's sword, the only weapon he could get his hands on, and he takes off. Well, again, the priest being totally innocent, having no idea what's going on, this exchange between the priest and David is witnessed by this guy named Doeg the Edomite, who now goes back to Saul and reports this event that took place. So verse 9. Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing there with Saul's men, spoke up. "When I was at Nob," These priests got to work on the names of their places. When I was at Nob, he said, I saw the son of Jesse talking with priest Ahimelech, son of Ahitub. And Ahimelech consulted with the Lord for him, gave him food and the sword of Goliath the Philistine. So Doeg, again, really rats out the priest. I mean, the priest is just there saying, I mean, he's completely innocent. This is David, man. It's like, a kind of a high-ranking official. He may have even been aware about the anointing as king. Just thought he was doing his duty. A high-ranking official came by and asked for some help, and of course, I helped him. So Saul says, here's Doeg the Edomite say, the priest is in on this too. He gave him some food, and he gave him a sword, and gave him all this stuff. Well, Saul just flies off the handle at this point. So what's going to happen from here, and again, a passage that we're not going to read in the series, but then Saul goes on from here to go confront, what's the guy's name? Ahimelech. He goes to confront Ahimelech, says, hey, what are you doing conspiring with David? And the priest is like, I'm sorry, what? Conspiring? I thought you and David were boys. I thought you were friends. And that's when Saul begins to come up with all kind of accusations and ends up murdering all the priests in this place. He tells Doeg the Edomite, he goes, hey, kill this guy. And Doeg, being the scoundrel that he is, killed the priest, killed everybody. One priest gets away. He manages to run away. He reaches David, and David is just distraught that all these priests are dead because, again, David had no idea, didn't see Doeg, didn't know he would go rat him out, didn't know who he was, for whatever reason, didn't do anything about it. And David has extreme regret over that. He's upset about that for a long time, and he takes the priest in, makes the priest that gets away and gets back to him. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he gets him there and brings him into the group, and he becomes the priest for David and his men for a while. But so here's what I want you to see. David is growing a group of people in this passage from 1 Samuel 22. While he's legitimately, at least at first, trying not to. He's trying to hide. But there's something going on with David that is so special that people find him even when he's hiding and want to join what he's doing. Where David's like, I'm happy you guys are all here, but if you're all here, I got to feed you. I got to find stuff for you to do. I got to occupy, and I got to keep you hidden. Because even if there's 400 of you, that's great, but the king has like 4,000. So, you're kind of a liability here, which is probably why the man of God said, y'all got to get out of here. The cave is not where you want to hide. Because if you get stuck in a cave, it's just a matter of time. They're going to starve you out. So, yet something was going on. People recognized something in David that they wanted. They wanted to follow him. They wanted to be a part of his life, or he wanted him to be a part of their life. They wanted to follow him. They wanted him to be the leader, to be celebrated, so on and so forth. Where Saul was just, even with all the men he had being the king, was just hemorrhaging people. People were just leaving all over the place. And you can see why. Where David was being respectful to people and at least doing what he could to listen to them. He obviously didn't order any of them to leave. He didn't cast anybody out. He was willing to embrace and accept people to come in, even when that was at great risk on his part. Because as we can see, there were spies everywhere. Doeg the Edomite could have been one of the guys who infiltrated David's ranks, but he was still accepting people in, still being respectful, because I don't know that David understood it, but clearly everybody else understood it, that David was in possession of something that they knew they all wanted, and to be part of their lives. And what was that David had? Well, that's going to be our topic for Sunday, the great spiritual gift that David was given. In fact, I'm going to make the contention that the spiritual gift, both David and Saul both had it, but they utilized the gift in very different ways. And that's going to be our topic for Sunday. Two guys who amassed a tremendous following, had a great crowd around them, but utilized that gift in very, very, very different ways. And the outcome, what happened to both of these men, is going to be very, very different based on how they use this gift differently. So interesting discussion there. And anybody? Oh, hey, Crystal Dove. Sorry, I didn't see you chime in there. Any of you who got any questions about that? Anything you want to ask about 1 Samuel 22? And anybody got any questions about 1 Samuel 22? And then we're going to hit the next phase of my plan for the night. I sure hope that my computer didn't crash and none of you are actually here. That's going to break my heart because nobody said anything for a while. You're talking to myself all the time. All right, good. Thanks, Nick. I'm glad you're still here, buddy. And yep, Sunday we're going to talk about what it was that Saul and David both had, and how utilization of God's gifts can manifest themselves very, very differently depending on how we use them. So, all right, you guys all good? It's all good. All right, let me switch over to my. All right. Ellie just asked why Saul was so mean. Saul was mean because Saul suffered from a very, very specific problem that ran through his entire life. Saul dealt with the evil of jealousy. He was incredibly jealous, meaning David had something that Saul wanted very, very much. And unfortunately, because of some decisions that Saul made, some choices they made, the way he treated people, as we saw here in this passage, Saul was unable to have the respect and admiration and love of the people that David had, even when he was trying to hide from them. He wanted to be David. He broke a lot of the commandments and loved David, or Saul, just wanted what David had from the very beginning, the respect and admiration and love of the people of God who were following him. And that's why Saul ended up getting in trouble, because he, instead of trying to better himself, trying to grow, trying to be a better king, trying to be a better leader, trying to treat people around him better, instead of doing those things, Saul said, if David wasn't here, then I would have all that stuff I wanted. So that's why Saul wants to kill David. So that jealousy, that just very intense hatred of anybody who had something that Saul thought he wanted was something he was never able to get rid of. And it ends up costing him his life later on in the story. And it's a very dangerous thing. It's a sad way to live, to try to live only wanting what somebody else has. It's good to want to strive for things. That's a great thing to do. And when instead of trying to better yourself and earn it on your own, when you want to take it from somebody else, that's never, ever a good thing. So, Crystal, Bill would like you to, I think we got a typo here. I'm not sure what Bill wants me to do. I don't know what TE is. Crystal, keep typing. But hang on, we'll get Crystal's question here. But I'll give you the rest of you a heads up. Once I've done answering Crystal's question here, when she gets it out, we're going to talk about Wayne Street a little bit. And I have a couple of announcements, things I want to talk about. But I would like to know from you if you have any questions, or if any of you have filled out the survey or been a part of a listening session so far. I know a couple. In fact, I think there's one happening at the church here tonight. Just like to hear from any of you about anything you would like to talk about for the life of the church. We're going to spend just a couple minutes doing this before we get on to the trivia thing. Go ahead and put those in the comments. And this is so hard because there's such a delay between stuff coming from my mouth and you hearing it on your screen, that by the time you hear what I'm saying, I said it like almost a minute ago. So whenever I ask you to post something, there's a big delay between the two. So it's kind of weird for me being here in real life. So now I'll just randomly talk about things until somebody says something here. While I'm doing that, I'll make an announcement. How about that? We're down to 4 teams left in the NFL. Okay, Crystal, I'll do that in just a second. We're down to 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. So 2 of those 4 teams are going to the Super Bowl here in a couple of weeks. Those teams will be determined Sunday afternoon. So I want to remind all of you to grab your sizes 4, 5, or 6 diapers and bring those to the church, because we'll be taking score predictions for the Super Bowl, and I will be autographing my Sharpie pin here. I'll be autographing a football for somebody, whoever can come the closest to naming the score. The real winners here are going to be those babies through the Family Life Center, and we love, 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 love babies. We want to give them a chance to be born alive and to do whatever we can to support young families. And so any of you who want to bring some diapers for this drive, I'd like to take 1,000 diapers over there when this is over. So if you could bring me size 4, 5, or 6 diapers and your Super Bowl predictions in 2 weeks, because we won't know who the teams are this coming Sunday, Susan and I will be there collecting them, and look forward to getting those together. And all right, Janet, I only got half your question here, so ask again. While you're asking, I'm going to answer Crystal's question. Bill would like to repeat the story of why David needed 5 stones when he faced Goliath. My contention was a week and a day ago, or a week and a couple of days ago, when we did the sermon on David and Goliath. I do not believe that David's intention was to kill Goliath with the stone. I don't think David went on the battlefield that day thinking he was going to hit Goliath directly in the eye with a stone and kill him. I don't think that was the plan, simply because if you read through the story in 1 Samuel 17, David's plan the whole time was to bludgeon David to death with the shepherd's staff. And I pointed out a couple of different places where I think that's true. The most obvious one being David says, "Look, I'm a shepherd and I protect the sheep, and lions or bears come against the sheep and gets one in its mouth, I go take it out of its mouth, and if the animal turns on me, he says, and I quote, I club it to death. And I will do the same to this pagan Philistine." That's right from David's mouth. That's what he said. So I believe what his intention was he was going, because we also know Goliath had that big bronze helmet on. So if he's got a helmet on to kill Goliath by hitting him in the head or hitting him in the face, I mean, as tall of an order as that is anyways, the helmet makes it that much more complicated. So I think what David's intention was is simply to hit Goliath in the head, face area with stones, simply so that so that Goliath would not be able to kill him with the javelin. Would not be able to, I mean, it's, even if I'm getting hit in the face with stones and I'm trying to throw a javelin and kill you, getting hit in the face is going to be very disorienting. And he's not going to be able to get a clean throw, which is exactly what David wanted. The 5 stones were simply, he was going to one in there, throw it, clang, hit him in the head. And while the giant's kind of reeling backwards, next one goes in, next one, clang. And what that was to do was to distract Goliath from using the spear, so David could get close enough and beat him to death with the staff. Friends, that is a terrible plan. But it turns out David threw the first stone, hit Goliath in the eye, which is how the stone got around the helmet and into his head. And Goliath died, much to the shock of everybody there, including David, who was not expecting Goliath to go down nearly that easily. So that's what the purpose of the 5 stones were, is David was just going to keep whipping him at Goliath's head as a diversion until he got close enough to swing the staff at him, which does not seem like the greatest of ideas. But luckily, God said, got to stop this boy from getting himself killed, and guided one of the stones to hit Goliath in the eye, and that's what ended up killing him. So good question. Thank you, Bill. Jan's been, by the way, warming me up. She's been sending me Bible trivia questions all day, and appreciate you getting me ready for that, Jan. And I'm not sure what happened to and that's all it says, Jan. I'm not sure what you're asking me. So please retype that question. And Crystal, you are most welcome, and thank you for asking. All right. Anything else about Wayne Street? You guys didn't ask me anything about that. You guys let me off easy here tonight. I'm going to take that to mean you have no questions. So I will now go on to the Stump the Pastor portion of the night. I'll take a couple of questions here, and I may have a couple of questions for you as well. Here are the rules, though. I don't want anybody saying, well, what's the third word in Nahum chapter 2, verse 4? I have no idea. It's got to be a question I could conceivably know. So a question about some kind of Bible trivia, something. And if you stump me, and you have to be, you can't ask something crazy. It's got to be able to have a verifiable answer by having a scripture passage attached to it. So, if any of you got a question you'd like to try me on, I got 9 wrong answers here. So until I get tired of this, or we get 9 wrong answers, which may not take very long, we'll see. We'll go from there. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we'll see if I know as much as I sometimes claim to. Which may be a shock even to me if that works out. So. All right. Hope while I'm waiting for some of these to populate, I hope you guys, any of you who have not signed up for a listening session, there are slots still available. You can use the QR code that's been floating around to sign up for those. Would love to have you be a part of those. There was one yesterday, and there's one going on right now. And I talked to a few people who came out of the one yesterday, and they seemed to have a good experience with it, and the ability to get out and put voice to some things going on around the church, and kind of learn, because we want to hear from everybody in this, or as many people as possible, so we can have some intelligent conversation around the future of Wayne Street and where we all think we should go together, and not so much what we should do, but how we should do it, and how we communicate things, and what you see as an impediment to our being a place where disciples get made. And all right, got a couple of questions here. Val says, would you consider sin or self-esteem to be our biggest problem? Sounds a lot like 6 or half a dozen. Because I think all sin is based on self-esteem and the importance of the self, but I also think that self-esteem can be a negative self-esteem, not positive self-esteem. Negative self-esteem is something that would lead to sin. Well, I think sin is our biggest problem, because sin leads to death. Now, sin can be based on self-esteem, but in your question, Val, I'm going to go with sin, because I think sin it's which came first, the chicken or the egg? Again, I think is that question. But sin, I think, is the ultimate problem, because that's the one that the book of Romans tells us leads us to death. Nick's question: after Jesus fed the 5,000, they picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. Thank you for that question. Terry says, city mentioned in Revelation, and also the name of the city of America. That would be Philadelphia. And good question. Thank you for that. All right. Anybody else got one here? Keep them coming. I'll take a few more, and we can. Or if you got any other questions, anything else you want to hear me talk about, or anything else you want to pick my brain on, including my saying up here, Val was asking about a minute ago. I got a couple of these hanging on the wall around here. This thing right here was one of the first things I moved into my house when I got here. I bought that off eBay, and that's a sticker I put up there. And given where I was at in my life at that point, I was just saying I desperately needed. So, did somebody like something? I just saw a heart pop up on the chat. I'd never seen that before. All right. All right. I tell you what. I will give a question while you're coming up with some questions, and the way we determine the winner is as the chat is here. Whoever gives the first correct answer. Let's see here. Let's see here. What happened to the man? Jan's got a question. What happened to the men that threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace? That would be they were incinerated. They opened up the thing, and the fire came out and burned them up, which makes it even more impressive that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were not incinerated. Don says, who's your biggest hero in the Bible and why? Of course, I got to say Jesus to that one. But if you ask me for my favorite Bible character, I think still Jesus, but taking Jesus off the table because he's the obvious answer. I love me some Nehemiah. Love that guy. Talk about leadership in critical times, trying to build that wall around Jerusalem. He was one that really a lot of leadership books have been written about him. Why? and he was just a man for the times in which he lived, and did some great work. I can't say saved the city, but certainly reestablished the city as a major city in the area in which he lived. Nick, who do you think Melchizedek was? Well, he was a priest. We know from the book of Hebrews. He was the priest that, if I remember correctly, he was the priest that Abraham went to after Abram, actually it was Abram at that time, came back from a battle, and he needed to give an offering to the Lord, and Melchizedek accepted 10% of the offering. And that's where the concept of a tithe comes from. It's from that story. I believe that was Melchizedek. And you guys can check me on that one. I might owe Nick a Hot Wheels on that one, but I'm pretty sure he was the one that Abram went to give that offering. And after this conquest that happened, and he gave 10%, and that's where the modern concept of the tithe came from. I believe that was him. And what? Sorry, Jan. I think I don't understand your question. Go ahead, type in there again. Let me ask one here, and I'll see if I can give one away. What was the name of the food that God gave the Israelites when they were in the wilderness? What was the name of it, and what does the name mean? That's my question. What was the name of the food that God gave the Israelites when they were lost after the Exodus? All right. Looks like Don Reniger's got manna. All right, Don, I'm going to put, here's round two. What does the word manna mean? Don't you be looking it up. Right here it is. Right here for you, Don. I'm writing your name on it right here. D-O-N. There you go. Now, you're responsible to ask me for this. If you don't get it, it's because you didn't ask. There it is. Somebody tell me. All right, that's the next question. I'm going to give away another card. It's going to be this pink jalopy here. I want to know what manna means, and don't be looking it up. Somebody tell me, what does manna mean? From heaven? Good guess, but not correct. Unexpected? Close, but not quite. Trusted? Nope. Substance? Nope. Guys got some good guesses, though. I tell you what it is, though. You're going to want to look it up because you're not going to believe me when I tell you what it is. Bread of life? Good guess? Nope. I'll take two more answers, and then I'll tell you. And then you all have to go look it up because you're not going to believe me when I tell you what it means. Lost food? Good guess, but no. Substance? Nope. Manna means, what is that? That's what manna means. Go look it up. Yep, it was a sugary, it was a sweet bread. That's right, almost like a cracker with yep, that's right, Don. And but it means, what is that? If you go look it up, that's what it means. In fact, I think it even says it in the Bible. That's not even a footnote. So, all right, you guys come up with another question, and I'll come up with one too. How about hang on, did I see a question up here I missed? What's my favorite Old Testament story? Oh my word, I would have a horrible time trying to pick. My favorite Old Testament story is a toss up between two. Obviously, Nehemiah is one. I love his story. The other one is Joseph, the story of Joseph from the Old Testament, the coat of many colors guy. The cancel the famine. One of my favorite sermon series I've ever done. I did it when I was at Forest Park. I'd not done it here. Was a sermon series on Joseph called "Canceling the Famine." And what a great story he is. All the things he went through. And when he finally gets to the point when his brothers come back to him, he says, hey, guys, don't be mad at yourself. God is the one who did all this to get me to this point so I could save your lives. Just a fantastic story. And a lot of nuance in it as to how the Israelites ended up in slavery in Egypt, because obviously Joseph was in Egypt prior to the Exodus. And but just a great story of him going through and canceling the famine and allowing people to survive. Let's see, Mindy, who took Judas Iscariot's place as an apostle? That would be Matthew. And I love over COVID how we went over Joseph and Elisha. Yes, we did do that. Thanks, Suze. We did do it there. I never did a sermon series on it. What's the shortest verse in the Bible? Would be John chapter 8, verse 11, where it says Jesus wept. Good question, Terry. Nick, what angel did God send to retrieve Moses' body? Ooh, that's from the Apocrypha. What was that angel's name? See, I don't think it was Gabriel. I think that one was Raphael, was it? Or was it Tobit? Nick, you might have me on that one. Was it Raphael or was it Tobit? I can't remember which one. Michael. Should have known. All right, Nick, you're the winner of the car here. Don says, I think Mindy got you. What did Jeremiah tell Pasher he would be called after releasing him from jail? Oh, my heavens. Let me think a second. It was this really strange sounding name. I remember this one because I talked about it. Matthew replaced Judas. It was Matthias. I gave the English translation. Pastor, you would be called. Oh, what the heck was that guy's name? Val, I think you might have me. I can't because it's a strange sounding name. All right, Val, tell us what it was because I can't remember. I got this white race car right here for you. Write your name on it right now. Tell me what it was because now it's going to bother me if you don't tell me because I remember that one it's a strange sounding name. It's obviously a foreign name, but I can't remember what it was. All right, I've given away 3 cars. I got 6 left. You guys want to give me another one? I see. I'll give you one too. How about Hey, Suze, are you watching the chat? You better look at this last question. You might need to chime in here. Who does Susan like more, me, Lorelei, or you? Hey, look, all I have to do is get the question right. I'm telling you what, she likes me better because if she doesn't, I'm going to make her sleep out on the porch tonight. I know she doesn't want to do that. The man who lives in terror. Oh, I was trying to think. Yeah, I remember that. I think there was a name, but I don't remember what it was. And I'm getting how many sons did Ahab have in Samaria? Ahab? How many sons did Ahab? King Ahab. He was the one who was. I think Ahab was the one who was Jezebel's husband. If that's true, I don't think he had any. All right, Mindy, I'm going with 0, but I might owe you a Hot Wheels on that one. Lorelei, she can come to my house. Hey, she's bailing me out there, Lorelei. There's your answer. So, Mindy, I'm going with 0, but I might owe 70. Ooh, I wasn't even close. You know what? For that one, you're getting a Batmobile, Mindy. There you go, right there. I'm writing your name on it right now. Now remember, you guys have to ask me for these on Sunday. I'll have them with me, but if you don't ask for them, it's on you. 70 sons. All right, Mindy, tell me this. Was he the one that was married to Jezebel, or did I have the wrong guy? I thought he was the one married to Jezebel, but maybe I got the wrong king. Who was the weeping prophet? That was Jeremiah. I know that one. All right, guys. I'll give you a couple more. This has been fun. Not that I miss COVID. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed doing these. I appreciate you guys getting on to shoot the breeze with me, especially after a day as cold and terrible as this one. Yes, he was married to Jezebel. How about that? I thought that was him. Which Old Testament book tells us about the life of Abraham? That would be the book of Genesis. He's the central character in Genesis because he's the one that receives the first covenant. So yeah, I don't have any desire to have COVID come back, but I do enjoy doing these. We may do another one of these sometime. I get you all together. Let me yak at you a little. Who was David's first wife? The first wife was the wife of daughter of Saul. Oh crap! What was her name?
You just said it, or we just read it, or at least I just read it.
Yeah, we just read it. He was the one that he married.
Looks like Michelle, but Michelle.
Yeah, it's Michael, Michal, I think was her name. Yeah. Thank you, Jan, and thank you for your questions today. Tell you what, I will give away a car to anybody but Jan Moran, since she's the one that asked me this one today. Besides manna, this car right here, this green car with the big tires, will go to the person who can tell me when God fed the Israelites in the wilderness and he gave them manna, which means what is it? He also served them something else. What was the other thing he gave them besides the manna? Anybody know? Dorcas translates to Tabitha. Val. Who could tell me what was the other thing that God served from? Oh, Crystal Dove gets quail, and this now belongs to her. Very good, Crystal. It was quail. And hang on, Jan. I'm trying to remember the second question you asked me today. It was pretty good. Let me go back here and get it here. All right. Actually, what was John the Baptist's father's name? What was the name of John the Baptist's father? And I got both of these this morning. So, John Snyder got Zachariah. John Snyder. See, what am I giving to John Snyder? You know what? John Snyder, you are also getting a Batmobile. Yep. Zachariah. Very good. All right. I got 3 left. I got 3 cars left here. And remember, you guys got to come. I'll have these with me on Sunday. You got to come get them from me. So, because I'm not going to hunt you down, but I got your name written on them. So, yeah. Susan is hearing me live because she's just in the other room here and watching on here. How long's the delay, Suze? Can you tell?
It's only about 3 seconds, but I guess like him, here's the one.
Yeah, she says about a 3-second delay, but it seems like an eternity when you're waiting for something to happen. So, yeah, it's like watching those badly dubbed foreign films, she says. So, let's see, Aaron, did you see the priest or pastor do the sermon before the inauguration? If so, which city church for which Paul sent letters to does that resemble the closest? Well, see, where were the most heretics at? Probably Rome, the book of Romans, because he talks a lot about holiness in that book and trying to toe the line and be orthodox and not be distracted by the things of this world. So, yeah, church in Rome. That was a disgrace, by the way. So, yeah, she really represented well. Explain haughtiness as mentioned in Proverbs 16:18. I've not memorized the whole book of Proverbs, but I'm assuming haughtiness means. Actually, it's back to the self-esteem thing you were talking about earlier. So there's a difference between self-esteem and arrogance. I would call haughtiness arrogance, where self-esteem, a healthy level of self-esteem is simply being able to, have respect for yourself. There's a difference between having respect for yourself and thinking you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're two very different things. And I would say haughtiness is a thought that I am the center of the universe, which is, honestly, that's the first sin in the Bible, is that one. So, Lorelei McAllister says, where is verse Psalm 22:1 repeated, and what does it say? It says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's repeated at the end of the Gospels. Jesus quotes it from the cross. What were the seven nations God mentions in Deuteronomy 7? Oh, dear. The 7 nations God mentions in Romans chapter 7. 2 men in the Bible who never died. One was Jesus, obviously. The other one was the guy that was swept up to heaven. What was his name? Ezekiel. Ezekiel never died. He was swept up to heaven on the great chariot. I think there was another one, though. The guy mentioned in Hebrews. Hang on, I'm coming up with it. Oh, what the heck was his name? Well, I'm going to go with Ezekiel and Jesus. But I know there was another one mentioned in Hebrews. His name is just escaping me right now. Enoch. That's who I was trying to think of. Enoch. So I'm going. Well, I'm Jesus and Elijah. Oh, it was Elijah. I said Ezekiel. Yes. All right. Mindy, you got me again. All right. Forget me twice. You're going to get the car with the big tires. John Snyder. What two birds did? It was a raven and a dove. I guess Jesus did die. I guess technically, even though he didn't stay dead. What does Isaiah 55:8 and Lorelei? Are you serious with this? I have no idea what those say. If you want me to give you a car, just say, "Hey Tim, will you please give me a car?" And you know which one you're getting? You're getting this one because it's a shark. See right there, that shark. That's the one Lorelei's getting for her question, because I have not memorized the entire book of Isaiah. I happen to know Isaiah 55 is the suffering servant passage, which is pretty good. It's kind of the Jesus job description passage. So that's pretty good that I know that, but I have no idea what it says. So there you go, Lorelei. You got your very own shark on wheels. Now, I got to go back up here because I skipped one from Terry. The 7 nations God mentioned in Deuteronomy 7. I'm assuming it's like A and AI and all those nations. I have no idea. Terry, Batmobile is yours, my friend, because I would take me all night to come up with all 7 of those. So that's it. That's my 9. Lorelei says, it's for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. That's a good verse. Lorelei, since I didn't know it, I want you to memorize it because that's a pretty good one for you. So if you were going to give a scripture to a college student to go with them, what would it be? I'm going to be honest with you. The one Lorelei came up with right there was pretty good. Isaiah 55:8 and 9. Now that I know what it says, pretty good. I also would give them Nehemiah 4:14, and you can look that one up. Nehemiah 4:14. It's all about rallying the believers. So, congratulations, Lorelei, on your win. So this shark right here, there it is, all yours. So, guys, it's been fun. I appreciate you coming out to spend your night, or at least part of your evening here with me. I need to close this off because Susan is starving to death and would like to get out here in the kitchen to make some supper. So. So I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you so much. I'll tell you what, if the weather continues to be awful, maybe we'll do another one of these sometime. If you guys would like that, drop me a text and let me know, because I only want to do these if we get a couple people out. So remember what we talked about for Sunday. We're going to be looking at the scripture from 1 Samuel 22 and the idea of what was it about these two guys, David and Saul, that attracted people to them? What spiritual gift did they have, and why did it play out so differently for both of them? And that's what we're going to be talking about on Sunday, is the appropriate use of spiritual gifts. And I appreciate you guys coming out. Love you all very much. Thank you for spending part of your evening with me. I hope everybody's warm. I hope you got a nice warm blanket on your bed. I hope your furnace is pumping out some warm air for you. And you know what? Lorelei McAllister said, "I'm a cool person. She guesses." And I'm going to take that as probably the best compliment I've gotten in a month. So anyways, you guys rock on. Go wash your hands. Keep everything clean around you. And I can't wait to see you on Sunday. You guys all have a great week.